Welcome to Frontline. In this video, I'm going to show you how you're going to customize your evaluations for the Performance Tracker platform. Underneath your Manage account, which only admins have access to, you'll go to Manage Performance Evaluations, and you're going to start in your Attributes section here. You are then going to be able to customize all your categories you want on your evaluation, so you'll just add that category in. If this is going to be a narrative-based category, just make sure to mark narrative only. That way the system knows there's not going to be any questions associated with it. You can come in and edit these if you want to reword these at any time. You do not have the ability to delete these out if you have any historical evaluations associated with those questions or those categories. Questions, you can come into here. You can select what category that question is going to be associated with, add in that question. Once you hit Add New, it'll then show underneath that category that you put it in. Your goal types that you want in the system. Evaluation score definitions, so regardless of what point scale forms you have, you can customize what those definitions are. If you want the evaluator to be able to reference those definitions while completing an evaluation, just make sure to mark Show Score Definition button. That way they're able to view those. Pending signature notifications, if you want to send out a weekly reminder to all your supervisors of any unsigned evaluations they have, just make sure to enable that here. Choose what day of the week and it'll be sent out at 8 a.m. Central Time that day that you've selected. Activity log type, so if you have that enabled underneath that My Account section, you're going to be able to customize what those activity logs are that you want to keep track of. Even if you just want to make notes in there, you can just make a log as notes, add that in, that way you can go in there and document whatever you want to. Manage employee disclaimer. So this is an on-off feature for the account as a whole. So when you go in to sign off on a completed evaluation, you have a sign button just saying that you've received this evaluation. If you want to be more specific on what that employee is signing off on, then you can customize this disclaimer here. So when that employee hits the sign button, they're going to have to okay to the disclaimer before their digital signature will appear on the evaluation. Otherwise, once you have those categories and questions built out underneath the attribute section, you can then go into your form section and you're going to be able to create your evaluations from here. So you're going to hit Add New. You're going to give it a name. Now there's a couple different forms that you can create in the system. Your standard evaluation would just be an employee getting evaluated by an evaluator. Self-assessment means you want an employee to do an evaluation on themselves. Supervisor evaluation means that you want the employee to do an evaluation on a supervisor in the system. Regardless of which option you choose here, you're then going to choose whether or not you want a signature workflow. So if you have that included, that means you want supervisors and a final approval and the employee to sign off on it. If you are just wanting to document evaluations in here with no signatures needed, you don't have to enable that. Otherwise, you're then going to choose what kind of point scale it's going to be, or if it's going to be a narrative-based. Narrative-based just means you're going to have categories in there where you can go in and make comments on each of those categories. Just know your point scale forms can be hybrid, so you can have point-based categories and narrative-based categories on that same form. Otherwise, once you select that here, you're then going to hit Submit. Once you hit Submit, you're then going to be able to add in all the information for that specific form. So the name of it's going to show already. You're then going to choose how many signatures are going to be required on this evaluation. So is it just going to be one signature, which would just be the evaluator? Otherwise, you can have up to 10, which would be the evaluator, 8 supervisors, and a final approval. If you mark this evaluation form as a self-assessment, just know with your self-assessment, the only signature that is required is by the evaluator, so the employee themselves. You can send it to other people, it's just not required. Otherwise, here are some on-off features for setting up this form. You have your point scale, but if you ever wanted to change that to a label based, you would just mark that here. That way you can build out what those labels are going to be. Your allow NA option, so if you want to be able to select NA as an option on your evaluation, just make sure that is marked. Otherwise, you just have your point scale. If you ever decide not to use this form anymore and you already have historical evaluations associated with it, you can't delete it out of the system, so you would just disable it. That way it doesn't show on the drop-down list to choose from anymore. If you're requiring your employees to sign off on that completed evaluation, just make sure that is enabled here. If you do want to utilize this one as a self-assessment evaluation as well, just make sure that is marked. If you want to set up specific instructions regarding this evaluation form, just go ahead and mark that here, and then you can customize what those instructions are. So when an evaluator opens up that evaluation, the first thing they're going to see are the instructions to that evaluation, where they can reference that throughout the evaluation as well. Overall performance summary. So if you have that enabled, you can customize what those are going to be. This option is going to show at the bottom of the evaluation in a drop-down list that you can choose how they did overall on that evaluation. If you want to require comments if a certain score gets marked on an evaluation, then just make sure to enable that here, and you're going to be able to customize which ones are going to require that comment to be done. Now, an evaluator cannot complete out the evaluation until a comment has been made on that question that got scored that certain way. Enable score definition per question. So if you want to be able to customize specific definitions per each question on this evaluation form, just make sure that is enabled, and then you can customize what those definitions are for that specific question. You're then going to be able to add in any categories that you want, and then make sure to enable whatever questions that you want underneath that category. You can update these question orders. You can update the category orders at any time. Otherwise, you're just going to hit save, and that's going to add that evaluation form into the system for you. You can have as many forms as you want in here, regardless if they're standard, self, or supervisory evaluations. That is how you customize your evaluation forms in the Performance Tracker platform. Thank you for watching this video.